All right, we are live.
Hello, everyone. Welcome back to day 2 of the Hiring Insights Expo presented by REVELxp. I'm very excited to kick off day two of that with our panel discussion highlighted by these amazing folks you can see on your screen today. I'm going to let Q introduce them here in a little bit. The topic will be negotiating, right? How to secure the bag for yourself, not just now, but in the future as well. So very excited to have you all here. Really appreciate the opportunity. And I think it's a really important topic for our students. So thank you for being here. I want to get in and kind of just set some of the agenda for today before I pass the mic to Q. Lana, can you confirm you can see my screen?
Yep.
And it doesn't look the way I want. There we go.
There you go. Yep.
Cool. Day 2 of the second annual Hiring Insights Expo, presented by REVELxp. I know you guys know that song, The Final Countdown. Oh, that's how we feel. We're getting ready to wind down in the second day of the program. Thank you again for coming out. Thank you again to our panelists, to our proud sponsors for all their support. Really do appreciate it. And we're excited to continue the momentum from day 1. So as I mentioned before, we're going to have an amazing panel with these folks we're going to hear from here shortly, focusing on negotiation, which is really amazing and a very important topic for soon-to-be college graduates. Following that, we're going to have our employer exploration program. So you guys as students will be able to identify and sit down with different employers that also happen to be SBC sponsors to learn about the folks that work there, to learn about those organizations, and then also to hopefully identify ways that you can potentially work with those organizations. Following that, we'll have our speed networking, which was very successful yesterday. Once again, it's a unique way for you to build more social capital, meet more people within the SBC ecosystem, and hopefully to provide you the social capital that you want and need. I mentioned employer exploration. So these are the organizations that will be featured from 4 to 5. Really appreciate to all these organizations for their support of our mission, of you all as students. And this is the chance for you to get more access to them and their organization. So that's going to happen from 4 to 5. What are you going to do there? Well, each of you are probably unemployed, right? So you can learn about what they do, learn how they got there, build social capital as we identified before, and make no mistake, as I mentioned before, part of why we create this platform is to connect you as job seekers with the folks, including those on the panel today, as talent seekers, and we can bridge that gap. So everyone would be so excited if one of you didn't walk away from a job necessarily today, but walked away with a relationship that would lead to a job with one of those partners organizations. So please take advantage of that opportunity. As you get into those employer exploration conversations, and even today, we want to see your face. So ask questions, get involved. That's the name of the game, okay? We don't want to look at you as just a person in the audience. We want to get to understand you as a person and support that person. Oh. As I mentioned before, I'm not going to do the real deep dive into social capital. I think you guys know what we're talking about. But as we think about the platform we create, it's because we want to teach you what you need to know, which is this panel is going to do it, but also the who you know. And meeting these folks and the people that work at these organizations is where that comes into play. So that's where you're going to have your opportunity, is the what you know and the who you know. And those are very related. A couple things I wanted to promote before we wind down on the Hiring Insights Expo. So one is a unique opportunity for our students. It's called the Octagon Career Accelerator Program. It's a 6-week professional development series where you get access to Octagon professionals to learn about really critical skills that are going to help you guys accelerate your careers. Here are the students from last year. Very proud of these students. They were kind of our inaugural class. They're all doing really well. They've all gained a lot from that program, many of whom actually were able to get additional opportunities with Octagon, including Laura. I'm looking at Payne. He now works in minor league baseball. Layla now works at Los Angeles Clippers. Brandon's getting ready to interview at agencies. So this is a great way to further refine and develop your professional skills. Please take us up on it. That program, like all of our other programs, is at no cost to your own. And then we do provide small scholarships to all the students that participate. Here's a couple testimonials from Johnny and Nicolette and Brandon from last year as well. So Lana's going to have a really robust email that comes to you all following this event, including a way to apply for this program. Highly encourage it. Take us up on it. The second program I want to highlight, and that's actually how we met John. So John came to this event last year. He heard about this Navigate Toolkit program. He then applied for that program, was accepted, and then spent the summer interning with Navigate while also getting kind of professional access to us, the sports biz camps, to help him accelerate his career as well. John, anything else you want to say about the Toolkit program as a way to sell it to some of the students here today?
The Toolkit program was an amazing program for me. It gave me a lot of vital skills that not only I need in a professional setting, but I could take with me in my everyday life. It was great to have these conversations that can help me be an effective communicator, a better seller, how to write a professional email. So it was such a great experience, and I would thank SBC for their time to put me through that program.
It's also a paid opportunity as well. So that was a great way for John to get some amazing professional experience and also get paid last summer. We'll be taking applications for that. Once again, Lana, we'll have more information there. And then lastly, for those of you that maybe are interested in both of those opportunities, but also want to hear about additional opportunities in the future, we have our SBC Careers platform. So it's on our website. You can sign up for eBlast. We have a group me. This is all around trying to help you guys land entry-level roles and internships. So please take us up on that and sign up today. We do not want this to be the last time we interact with you or the last time we can support you. All right. And then as we're starting to wind down, I'm showing this. What do you think I'm trying to articulate with this slide? What is the common theme here? Roger, I put it to you.
Follow through, baby.
Follow through. All right. How are you going to follow up and through on this experience? Like I will applaud you all for being here. Our panel is excited to speak to you, and we would applaud you for going above and beyond. And that's great, guys. That's the first step. It's all about the follow through. Okay. So how are you going to follow up and through on this experience? That's my task to you all. The exciting thing is you have time, right? But the challenging thing is the bad news is time flies, right? And it's going to go before you know it. For those of you that are juniors, senior year is going to be here before you know it. For those of you who are freshmen, senior year is going to be here before you know it. Get ahead of that. Use this time. Use this opportunity. Follow through on this program. Follow through on your attendance to this program, okay? You are the pilot. With that, I'm going to stop talking, officially pass the mic to our esteemed moderator, Quashawn Lockett, and let you guys take it from here. But thanks again for being here. Q, take it away, buddy.
All right. Thank you, Patrick. I'm excited to be back for day 2. I'm excited to see everybody again for this panel, Secure the Bag, How to Negotiate for Yourself. Quick introduction, Quashawn Lockett. I probably have the shortest nickname ever. It's one letter, Q. You can call, as soon as you get to know me, you can call me Q. I think my mom is probably the only person who calls me by my full name. So don't be my mom and call me Q. It's completely fine. Hometown, I grew up in New Jersey. It's between Passaic and Patterson, New Jersey, split in time. I'm currently in Dallas, where I've been for the past 5, almost 6 years now. My role is I wear a couple different hats, global head of HR for On Location. If you don't know On Location, owned by both Endeavor and the NFL. We are a sports entertainment experiential company, and we do everything across the sports entertainment experience. So think ticketing, transportation, travel management, hospitality. We put all that together to curate experiences and hospitality for our guests around some of the largest mega events in the world, like Super Bowl, Olympics coming up in Paris in 24, the NCAA tournament Final Four, which just passed, Masters, which is actually happening right now, all the legacy mega events that are out there from a sports entertainment and fashion perspective. I also own my own consultancy called Color Sports, which is really a way for me to continue to give back and continue to work on organizations and kind of create those workplaces and environments that were really purposeful and built on inclusion. So that as you all find jobs, you're walking into environments that are really built on inclusion and where you can thrive. So I do that work from a consulting standpoint as well. I want to just kind of, and I'm going to turn it over to my fellow panelists, but just I want to talk a couple things just to kind of set the stage, and then we'll do the rest of the introduction. So what I really want everyone to think about is you own your career. That's really what yesterday's session was about, and definitely this session today is how do you own your career? And that really always starts with negotiating, knowing what you can negotiate based on what you want to do. And I want you to understand the power that you have in that dynamic. It's not just a one-way dynamic with the organization doing the negotiating that you're looking at. You need to come to the table and understand how do you play into that process. The second thing is understanding what your vision is for yourself, right? If you're going to negotiate or if you're going to grow your career, you have to have a plan and a vision for what it is that you're looking to do, not only today, but thinking for the future, right? What you do today will ultimately set you up for what you do in the future. So I want everybody to kind of think about it that way. And as we go through this panel, you'll learn some techniques and tools to how you can negotiate and set yourself up for, again, what it is you want to do today, but what is it that you want to do 2 years from now, 3 years from now, and beyond. And because you'll look back, like myself, who's been doing this for 17, 18 years, it goes by fast, and you want to have a plan for how you're going to move along that journey. So I'm going to stop there, and I want to make sure we introduce everybody else. I'm going to start with Roger. Roger, if you could introduce yourself and tell everybody about you.
Yeah, no. First off, I want to thank everyone for being here. Q, thank you for the intro. Mine is not going to live up to yours, but I'll make it pretty brief. It's Roger Jones. I am from Cleveland, Ohio. So born Cleveland Browns fan, Cavs fan, and now Guardian fan. I live currently 20 miles south of Cleveland in Stowe, Ohio. Most of you probably don't know Stowe, Ohio. It's in between Akron, so any LeBron James fans out there. I currently work for the Brandar Group doing NIL solution and bringing in national partnerships. So for any college athletes, I know all you guys are talking about NIL, and I'll tell you, they were recruiting me for about several months. So there was a lot of negotiation happening. So I'm primed to share my advice, and I really agree with Q. Like this is you own it, right? You got to be an architect of your own career, and it starts with negotiation. So I'm looking forward to getting in with this and with my fellow panelists. Happy to provide some advice and tips to all you guys.
Thank you, Roger. Let's go to Noelle over at United Talent Agency. Noelle, introduce yourself.
Hi, I'm Noelle. I can't say a hometown. I'm originally from Rhode Island, so it's probably the size of some major cities, right in the middle. And I currently live in Los Angeles. I've been here almost 11 years. And at United Talent Agency, which we call UTA, is one of the global leading entertainment agencies. So we represent all types of artists, from talent, film, digital, music, comedy, runs the gamut. I focus on the music side of things. So we represent an exclusive roster of bands and artists, and we book their live touring events, which is pretty great now that those are back and in full force. And in terms of negotiation, this is a key topic for me in my everyday life, since I'm technically, when it boils down, I'm in sales. And the product that I'm selling is the artist. So negotiating is a very, very big part of my day-to-day, in addition to myself as an employee, but for all our artists that we represent as clients. So yeah, looking forward to getting into this, since I think I have some insight sort of from the professional standpoint of my day-to-day tasks, in addition to the employee-company relationship side.
Awesome.
And thanks again, Patrick,
Noelle,
for the invite.
Carissa from On Location, introduce yourself.
Hi there, everybody. My name is Carissa Kennedy. I work on Q's team at On Location. Super excited to be here with you all. It's super hard to follow all those amazing introductions, so bear with me. But Q kind of gave you guys an idea of what On Location does. My hometown is Dallas, Texas, born and raised, but I've lived kind of all over. I lived in the New Jersey area for a while, New York City for a while, and now home is Austin, Texas. Sorry, Q, it's the best city in Texas, so I love it here. Yeah, to give you guys a little bit of an insight on what I do. So I'm the manager of recruiting, and what that means is I spend a lot of my time looking at resumes, talking to candidates, and helping. I always tell people I help great people find cool jobs. At the base level, that's really what I do. I always joke that in school, I used to get straight A's, but I would always get in trouble for being too chatty. So this is the perfect role for someone like me. So if you also get great grades, but you might be a little bit too chatty, I have a job for you. So we can connect after this. How negotiation kind of fits into what I do. I mean, I think negotiation is a huge piece of recruiting. Kind of what Noelle said, she's selling artists, she's in sales. I feel like I'm in sales and I'm really selling the company. and really selling the team or the role. And so it's a lot of back and forth, a lot of give and take, a lot of getting to know somebody, and helping place them in a role that makes the best sense for them and also that contributes to our organization. So I'm looking forward to a great conversation with you all.
Awesome. Thank you, Carissa. Patrick, I think we're going to you for a question to the group.
We are. I'm going to put this out to the group. I'm going to put it up on the stage here. We're going to look for someone to raise their hand to provide their answer, and then we'll hear from the group what they think. So this is the scenario. You meet Carissa at this event. She eventually offers you a full-time role on location. Should you negotiate for more money? All right, so that's the question. If you would raise your hand, we will bring you up to the stage. Kishan. All right, and this guy likes to be ready, Carissa. He likes to sell.
Love it.
So Keyshawn, what's up, man?
Can you all see me? Sorry.
Yeah, man.
Hey,
So are you going to negotiate? So are you going to negotiate with Carissa on this job opportunity through an SBC sponsor?
As far as myself, I wouldn't try to negotiate offer right away. Just me being an undergraduate position, being a junior, me just getting my feet in the industry would be my main focus. So I wouldn't want to try to negotiate for no type of top dollar right off the bat. So I would be looking more towards like the like learning about the industry and getting those key ins and outs. So.
All right, Keyshawn, I want to keep you here. So Keyshawn's a non-negotiator. Does anyone want to raise their hand and wants to talk about how and why they would negotiate with Carissa? There's no right or wrong answer. No, Noel, you're next.
I have a response.
All right,
I do too.
Go ahead, Noel. So you would negotiate.
I would negotiate. Don't sell yourself short just because you're getting started. I'm sure you have great skills, great, hopefully some good grades and some applicable experience. Doesn't hurt to give it a little push and give it a try just because you met her in this forum that got your foot in the door. Give it a go.
Yeah, and I'll add, Keyshawn, just because you're a junior doesn't mean you can't negotiate now. I mean, I had a job offer going into my senior year with the Cavs, right? And let me tell you, it made my senior year a lot less stressful than a lot of my classmates. And when you think about negotiation, right, like know your value, right? Obviously, if you're having the conversations, and Carissa, she's been doing this, and if she sees something in you, there's value to that, right? So just do your research and see what that value is in the marketplace, and then use the time to maybe reach out to someone at one location in one of those positions and just get a little bit more insight, right? So never sell yourself short, like Noel said.
Yeah. So Keyshawn, do you feel like you're just like not it would be like? Can you explain your emotions as to why you wouldn't want to do it? Is it because you don't want to offend her or make her mad, or like? What do you think? Because then, Chris, I'm going to come to you next, and you can tell him what you think he should do.
Yeah, on my position with that, I would say so more on the side of not trying to be too aggressive when negotiating. Like I would try to negotiate a little bit as far as after listening to what you all said, you kind of have persuaded me a little bit to the other way, but I wouldn't want to be so aggressive as far as demanding anything. That's what I mean by when I say not trying to negotiate anything. So
really good response. Yeah. So Carissa, if Keyshawn was going to negotiate, how do you interpret that? Are you offended by it or?
No, I always walk into the conversation with that expectation. I personally always feel that the person is going to come back. I think, talking specifically about not wanting me to be too aggressive and things like that, deliver what you say is not going to be the offensive part. The delivery might be, could use some polish or whatever, but I don't think what you would say would be offensive at all. I think most people, maybe all people offering you a job expect a little bit of back and forth. And really, as much as I'm interviewing you and offering you a job, you're really interviewing me and the company and deciding if that makes sense for you. So it really is a give and take, and you don't want to make it or allow it to be too one-sided either. When you're thinking about negotiation, and, I totally appreciate your position of being in your junior year, and maybe I need somebody to start immediately or whatever the case is. If you come back to and say, like, I'm going to take a beat to think about it, thank you so much, and come back maybe with some data. I did my market research for this area at this location, someone with my experience level, you're offering me $5 an hour. And it really seems with someone with my experience in this area is more commensurate with $7 an hour. And so it's kind of hard to look, you're not operating from a feeling of, oh, I want more money, I'm going to come across greedy. You're coming at them with data points. It gives you kind of a basis to stand on. So that's what I think.
Do you want to kind of close it off with Keyshawn, maybe a bit of a, not pep talk, but help him understand why it's okay?
Yeah, go ahead.
Oh, sorry.
No, go ahead, Q. Sorry, I didn't hear Patrick.
I didn't hear if it was for me or for Carissa. So
I'm sorry, Q. Go ahead. Sorry.
Okay. Yeah, I was gonna share something that someone shared with me very long time ago, and it's that no one will have your best interest in mind as much as yourself. And as someone who's been doing this from an HR perspective for a very long time, understand that companies build their position and their budgets with a range in mind. So, well, I can't say no company will. Most companies are not going to come to the table with the top of that range, right? So they're expecting to negotiate. They're expecting to have some wiggle room in there. And so they're going to build their budgets and they're going to start that conversation at a lower end, just in case, and with the understanding that there's going to be some negotiation through the process. I think what everyone, Roger and Carissa and Noel said, research is key, right? You have to understand, one, what is that number for you? What is that range for you based on whatever your personal situation or dynamics are? And do the research to understand what the market pays and what that company pays as best as you can. And then use that to your advantage, understanding that the company's probably going to build a range into what they offer, and that there's some expectation for having to move along that range, and that gives you some wiggle room based on your research and your understanding of what you need personally.
Great job, Keyshawn. Thanks for the confidence, man. You're more confident than you portray. You were confident enough to come up here and ask the question, so we're proud of you for asking, man. Thanks for that, and I think the panel did a great job addressing that. All you can hear is no, buddy. Right? All you can hear is no, and do it the right way. How you do it, to Noel's point, not just that you're doing, but how you're doing it's going to be really important.
Thank you.
Amber, you joined us as well. You raised your hand. I assume it's because you're going to tell us about how you would negotiate more money out of Carissa?
Yeah, I actually learned this in class a couple, like last week or so, and they were saying basically it's good to negotiate even though if you don't have a lot of experience or it's an entry-level position, because it shows the employer and the company that you know your worth, and if you do your research and it makes you kind of stand out against other candidates, and that knowing that if you go in to negotiate, they have wiggle room, like you guys all said, and that if you don't negotiate, then they don't expect to, I guess, basically have you not negotiate, and the money's just going to go elsewhere. So just, I guess, advocate for yourself and negotiate. That way you can get the best offer that you possibly want and know that you're worth. So.
Sounds like you were taking a good class with a good professor.
Yeah.
Carissa, what do you think? Anything you want to I mean, we should probably give a good clap to Amber there for paying attention in class.
Yes, absolutely. Absolutely. I know if I was your professor, I'd give you an A+. I definitely think that's so important what you said, advocate for yourself. I mean, again, at least it's worth the conversation, and the absolute worst thing that they could do is say, that's the top of my range. This is the position. I appreciate that you're coming to me with data points, but the best I can do is $5 an hour. And then you have to make the choice of that makes sense for me or no, that doesn't make sense for me. And at least you tried, and they know next time, like, okay, now when it's time for Amber to get a promotion or for a different opportunity, I know that I need to be prepared because Amber is going to advocate for herself. So I think that's really important. You made a great point.
Okay.
Great work, Amber.
Thank you.
Awesome stuff. A couple takeaways before I hand it back to Q, and I guess one takeaway and then a question for the group. But I guess this might be a question for us to consider. So the students typically ask me, like, all right, Q, I know I need to negotiate, but how do I go about doing that? Right. And one thought would be, my favorite question is is that negotiable? You can ask that question. All right. So when Carissa gives you a job offer and she says, we're going to pay you $100,000 a year because you guys are worth it, and you think you're worth 120, you don't say that's a bullshit offer. Carissa, sorry, I swore. We talked about that before.
That would feel aggressive.
That would be aggressive. You don't say, I think you can do better, or I'm worth more. What do you say? Wow, Carissa, that's a really generous offer. I'm really excited about the opportunity to work with you. I love that offer. I really enjoyed our conversation. Is that negotiable? Is there anything else that you can do above 100K? And as Q mentioned, there's a range. And Carissa's good at her job. She probably has up to 110, right? But you didn't ask for 110. You asked if it was negotiable. Okay? And then put it back on her. And that's how you can end up. So I think that's an important takeaway is assume that everything is negotiable. And the best way to start that conversation, which is where students usually have the hardest step, is ask the question. Is that negotiable? Noelle, any else thing you want to add there in terms of like how you start to initiate the negotiation?
I think that's great advice to turn it around. And from the agency perspective, everything is negotiable all the time. Every deal point, always. So I'm just thinking about, it's not all about the dollars and cents. And I think we're going to get into this a little further down the line, but there's other things that are, benefits, perks, et cetera, that can sweeten that deal for you, even if it's not necessarily every week in your paycheck. And those are things to talk about or ask about, what am I eligible for? What does this include? After 5 years, do I get any additional benefits? That sort of thing. So think about all those and not just, the dollar on the check every week.
Yeah, Q, I'll hand it back to you. Do you want to kind of open up that conversation, help students understand what else to be considering from a negotiation standpoint?
Yeah, let's go down that path. So Noelle kind of kicked it off. So besides money or the salary or the hourly pay, whatever it's going to be, what are the other things that you can and should negotiate going in, and what does that process look like? Why don't we start with Roger, and then we'll go around.
Yeah, no, definitely. It's funny, like the titles call it secure in the bag. Always people start just thinking about money, but I'm like, I want more than money in my bag, right? Like I want to walk away with more than just that. For me, it's time, right? I just got married, and I love spending time with my wife, my family. It's also benefits. Like I remember one of the biggest reasons for me going to the Browns was they had a cafeteria and they had the ability to use the fitness, right? So you're telling me I don't have to go out and buy lunch all the time. And you're telling me I can go work out and I don't really have to own a membership, right? That was important to me. I was looking at other ways I was saving money. And just being able to negotiate those things. I think it starts going back to research. I'll give you guys a quick story. When I moved from Ohio to Maryland, I had no clue about Maryland. But the first thing I did was I looked at cost of living. And I'm telling you, the Maryland, D.C. area is a lot more expensive than Ohio. And the first thing I asked was it negotiable for a salary based off cost of living? They said no. And then my follow-up question was, are you willing to do a moving stipend? And they said yes. And that was something that I was able to negotiate that wasn't directly my salary, right? So there's so many different things. It starts with research.
I love that. Carissa, what do you have to add on that?
Yeah. Well, I'm going to show my cards a little bit because my boss is on this call. But when you're thinking, especially in the 2022 realm, similar to what Roger was saying, about places that you're living and office locations and that sort of thing. When I returned to On Location, so I was at a legacy company prior to On Location acquiring them. For us at the time, location was tantamount. It was really important. Remote work was not something that they were doing. And what I do all day long on the phone required me to really have a closed door or, a more isolated space. And so I think really negotiating office location and perhaps like a hybrid or a remote situation can be really important because maybe, and the worst that they can say is no, like this is really important. And some of my roles are like that. I really need this person to sit in the office and we're willing to help with the moving stipend to get you there. Or, yeah, you know, you live an hour and a half from the office, perhaps we can do a hybrid situation. And some of my roles even currently are listed as on site in the office, but when the right candidate comes along, we can kind of make it into a hybrid if we need to, or talk about that at least. So I would think that, or I would say my answer to that question would be really look at location. That's something that you can negotiate. Growth trajectory sometimes is really linear, sometimes it's not. Can you get the opportunity to have a little bit more exposure to different segments of the business or different people, networking opportunities and exposure that will set you up a little bit more longer term than the immediate. So
yeah, Q, if you don't mind, I want to just add on to what Carissa was saying. When I was interviewing for the Browns, one of the things that was a big focus of mine from a previous role at Georgetown was D&I, right? And my role, they were hiring me to be the director of corporate partnerships. But it was definitely something that came up in my interview, and I said, does the Browns have these initiatives? Do they? And this is something that's passion of mine. Like, I negotiated the ability to be involved in those conversations, to be put on the council. Like, that's something that I negotiated in my interview because that was important to me. So I think, Carissa, you hit on a key. It's not necessarily all about money, but it's where do you want to go in your career, right? What do you want to learn? You know, and you brought this up. It's, you know, you're interviewing the employer as well. So, you know, tell them what you want to learn, where you want to take your career. I think Q talked about this in his intro, you know, not just where you are now, but where you want to be in 2 years, 3 years. You know, every boss that I've worked for, I told them I want to be X position in 2-3 years. And I told them I'm going to rely on them to give me the resources to get to that level. So I don't think you should be afraid to do that.
I also want to let me tell you a little bit about Carissa's negotiation skills, because I think she's selling herself a little bit short. So as she says, she's on my team, and so I've obviously she's on my team, but I've also negotiated with her in the employer-employee relationship coming in. She's got small children at home, same as I do, and one of the first things she negotiated coming back to the company was, "Hey, can we work on the structure of my work schedule?" Right, and so. She, you know, kids were, I think it was over the summer when she started, kids were going to be home, and she came, and she didn't just say, "Hey, I don't want to work these hours." She came with a plan that says, "Hey, I know I can get my job done during these hours later in the day. So I'm going to work the same amount of hours. It's just not going to be at 8 a.m. to this time. It's going to be more starting at 2 p.m. and go through this time." And she came with the plan of how she actually was going to do that and help me see, you know, how I think every employer and every hiring manager wants you to succeed, right? They're not going to start a relationship off not wanting you to succeed. So if you can explain yourself of how you can make it work, the worst thing they can say is no. So I thought that was a really interesting thing to the topic we're talking about. And then just to kind of like list off some, you know, I negotiate every day, right? From a recruiting standpoint, a hiring standpoint, even with existing employees, the negotiation doesn't stop once you're in the company. And so like I've had people, some of the cool things or interesting things that people have negotiated is a professional development stipend, annual stipend where like you're focused on your professional development. It could be for conferences, it could be for licenses, it could be for training, having that stipend there and paid for. Language classes, right, to learn a new language. Tuition reimbursement, you all are going to have some sort of, well, hopefully not, but I know I did. I had student loans that I had to pay back. And so tuition reimbursement is one of them. You know, there's all sorts of things, you know, Roger talked about D&I initiatives, the things that you're passionate about. And then think about also negotiating in terms of what happens if it doesn't work out for whatever reason, right? What things can you negotiate on? If you've been here for a year, it doesn't work. Career development classes, transition classes, if you're going to have to leave that company for whatever reason, can they build in some sort of career transition? Resume writing, those type of things can really come in handy, and you don't think that going in because you're expecting it to work, but things happen. If it doesn't work out, negotiate into your deal that, hey, this is what happens if it doesn't work, and what does that look like, and what's important to you. We've probably beat this topic dead, but Noelle, anything to wrap us up, and then we can move on to another question.
No, I have to say, Patrick, I'm glad that you're sharing all this in the chat, because a lot of those things on my mind, or I was thinking about, I've had very different versions of that combination between health and wellness, the cell phone, the computer, all that kind of stuff over time. So like you said, I think we've got it well covered.
Awesome.
I think I think John was going to bring up a question we had from Harry, right?
Yeah. I have a question right here. I'm going to show it up right now. How do you negotiate in an appropriate way if you want flexible work hours?
And maybe just in general, guys, and we're going to bring Harry up, how do you negotiate in an appropriate way, right? So we talked about, like, you can negotiate, but some tips on what is an appropriate way to go at it. Q, do you want to start?
Yeah, I think, and we've said this a few times already, it starts with the research. You have to know what you're negotiating for yourself, and then also what the market dictates in some ways, especially if it's monetary and pay related. You have to know as best as you can what the company's willing to do, right? And so knowing the company, knowing what position they're in, knowing the type of company they are, the type of products they sell. Are they a call center? Like, just an example, right? A wild example. Are they a call center that has to be a 24-hour environment? Like, you get to know the environment and what they can and cannot do. And then researching for yourself, again, what you're interested in and what the market dictates. Obviously, in terms of the conversation, is really not locking yourself into, hey, I got to have this. It's really guiding the conversation in a way that hopefully they'll open up and tell you what they're able to do, right? Or at least meet you in the middle, so that you're not giving, it's like poker, right? You don't want to show your hand too early. So negotiating is really both an art and a science. The science is the data and the research. The art is really the savvy of it, right? Going in, understanding the ranges in pay, understanding the way the company is built and their processes and their structure, talking to people if you can that work there, understanding what their products are. That all goes into understanding more about the company and the position and what you're able to do and not do. And it just comes from a place of respect, right? Helping the person on the other end of the table see you as a person, right? I mentioned Carissa negotiating her work schedule because she has small kids at home. I also have small kids at home, right? So that instantly, I know what that dynamic is about, right? Being a father, trying to have a profession, also, raising kids, like, you instantly connect with that. So find ways to connect with that person on the other side of the table, to help them see you as a person and not just this paper or whatever it is that you're asking for.
Yeah, and I just want to jump in real quick on it too. I think there's this big misnomer of, like, and we heard it earlier, like, oh, negotiating is being aggressive, or like, Noelle, you probably get it all the time with sales, like, it's a bad thing. Like, it's not, right? Like, you're building a relationship, and I think when you go down, sit for an interview, like, this is the start of a relationship, right? So through the negotiation, you just want to be authentic and transparent. And what Q was alluding to is, when you do your research, it's not just going, on, online and just looking at everything. Start a relationship with someone in that position, right? Learn from them, like, the ins and outs of the company and what that duty and what that role is, and understand what the skills it takes. And if you have that, obviously understanding yourself, when you can go into these conversations now, it's more about building a relationship, right? It's getting the relationship started on the right foot. And I think we saw a good example of it, and Carissa reacted, which was beautiful, when Patrick asked her the question, or cussed at her. It's tone, right? It's tone. So if you're in these conversations and the person across from you can see that you're genuine, right? And there's a reason why you're asking for a flexible work schedule, not just asking because you don't want to work past 3 o'clock because you and the boys go out and go to happy hour. But there's a reason, and there's authenticity behind it. Now you're starting on a very, very comfortable relationship with that person. And here's the thing, that's really what is happening. You're building a relationship with your company, right? And throughout the lifetime of that relationship, they're going to base off everything off the start. So that's where your negotiation, and you'll start gaining negotiation power as you move on in your career as well.
Noelle, you really negotiate for a living. So like what advice can you provide on that process?
Well, I'd actually like to offer a counter to all this, because I think it's a really interesting time to ask about flexible work, because the concept of work from home was not as readily available for everyone, and certainly not entry-level positions even 2 years ago. And first of all, Harry, you're getting an excellent education. I'm sure you're going to have a great career ahead of you, because I too am a Syracuse alumni. So go Orange. But my counter to that, which I've actually been saying to a lot of our assistants, is you gain so much from your time in the office. I think a lot of people, it's great to work from your PJs, and it's great to kind of like have your cup of coffee and hang out and check your email in the morning. But in terms of the dynamics of what the job really means, and in terms of, we have assistants that eventually want to become agents, or our trainees who become assistants who become agents, the value of the time in the office is paramount. I mean, you really can't learn nearly as much. I get so much more done with my assistant, who I can see outside my window right now, when we're here together, versus email and text and this and Slack all day long. And just her listening to me negotiate, her listening to me how I communicate with others. I get to hear what my colleagues are working on, and sometimes we peek our heads in each other's offices. That I think there's sort of like everyone's the re-entry is a weird time right now. And I am really grateful that I work for a company that our office is open, it's flexible. That flexibility eventually will come to an end, or that flexibility will shift a little bit. But I wouldn't necessarily say, asking for something flexible should be super high on your list, because gaining this real true work experience is invaluable in terms of growth.
That's great insight. I'll add from the organization standpoint, because look, the more you know, and the more information you have in your toolkit, the better you can navigate these negotiation pieces. Just think about what remote work and flexible work arrangement does for the organization. It can be really disruptive, right? And I'm not saying it's not a good thing, but it can be disruptive if you have a company who is an in-office company, and all of a sudden you moved it to this remote work, what that does for your culture, what that does for your processes, what that does for your people practices. And then think of it from a direct manager standpoint, who maybe they have a team of 10 and 9 of them are in the office, and then there's one person who works remote. Now that manager has to spend additional time thinking about, okay, I have this meeting, and the convenience of having everyone in the office. Now I've got 9 people there, and then I've got to figure out how we're going to dial this other person. So it winds up being a lot, right? And we can say managers should just figure it out, yes, but if you're all going to be managers at some point, right? And these are the things that are going to come up that you maybe have never thought of, right? No one thought about COVID and remote work, but now it's a thing, and everyone's trying to figure it out. So I say that to say, when you're going into the negotiation, think about the pain point for the organization, right? If I'm hiring you either to solve a problem that I have on a professional level, or solve a problem that the organization has, or a need that the organization has. So you have to tackle the negotiation in that same way, right? How am I going to solve that need or that problem for that manager or that organization? And it goes into negotiation. So just having that information, I think, could be helpful. Carissa, as a recruiter, how do you, and I think the question was about flexible work arrangement. Have you had that question come up to you from a candidate, and how do you navigate that?
I think it's like 50-50 shot. Every other person asks about it, especially because I try to be really intentional in our job postings to say, like, this position is full-time in office, or this position is fully remote. So we try to get in front of it, but it comes up, I think, every other conversation. A lot of the reasons, like if they ask me, is there flexibility? Can this be remote? Can this be hybrid? I usually answer and say, like, yes, we can explore a hybrid role, or no, we can't because X, Y, and Z. I find that if people give me reasons, and I'm able to give them reasons about why, yes, this can be hybrid or remote, or no, this can't be, and the reasons why, it helps them understand better. And to Noel's point, a lot of our I think all of our actually entry-level positions are required to be in office because there's so much knowledge to learn. There's so many things to learn. Our jobs can be really nuanced depending on the division and the department. A lot of pieces are fulfillment and collaborative in ways that maybe we can't do that on a computer. And so when I explain that to them, people seem to be much more understanding, like, okay, it makes sense. I'm not sitting behind a computer the whole time. That collaborative piece is really important. Working on fulfillment together is really important, or team meetings, things like that, that can't be really replicated when you're in a screen, or shipping things back and forth is inefficient. Most people are fine with it. Other times people will say, oh, well, you know, this position is an hour and 20 minutes from my office, so it really doesn't make sense, but I'll take a look at the remote positions that you have available, or things like that. So it usually goes pretty well. People are pretty understanding. And then when they respond, they usually give a reason of like, oh, I was asking because I just got off a call before this call where the position that they are a front runner for is an hour and 30 minutes from her location. And it was a full-time in-office position, but because we like her so much, we're considering making it hybrid to fit her needs. So I think it's important to at least have the conversation, because you just never know.
Thanks, Carissa. Harry, that was a great question.
Thank you.
I think I want to hit one more quick, and we're going to do this as a speed question because I want to save time for whatever questions all of you have left. So Roger, you started to kind of touch on this. So we're going to short answers really quick for each of you. How do you balance getting the right deal for yourself short term and balance that between building the long-term relationship with the manager that you're working for or the organization? How do you do that? And we'll start with Roger and go around.
I have a priority list before I even go in, right? I set what's important to me, right? You know, if that's time, if that's money, if that's benefits, health, mental health, whatever it is, I set that priority ahead of time, and we keep touching on it. I just do my research. You do the research, and you think about what, to your point, Q, not just right now, but where can I grow, right? You know, I never take a job just to take one for now. I take one for where can I grow and where can I advance in my career.
Thank you for that. Noelle.
Yeah, I agree. You know, make your list of priorities. It's kind of like buying a house or a shopping list or something. What's really high? What's a non-negotiable? I can't live without it. What can I maybe, work on or live without? But like we're all saying, I think focusing on the intangibles, hot tip that I'm really working on for myself, even now 15 years in, is I want regular check-ins. I want, what's the mark of success? Where do you see me in a year? What should I be focusing on? I want that open dialogue with my supervisor or my, superiors, so that I'm constantly growing and constantly evolving. I didn't come to this position to do the same thing over and over and over for a million years. You want to kind of be on that upward trajectory. So constantly be asking to have open dialogue and open communication so that you're aware of how they're feeling about you. You know what that expectation level is, which isn't always necessarily, that's an overall benefit for you as opposed to the hard and cold facts on the piece of paper.
Absolutely. Carissa.
Man, it's hard to follow those, those two, because that's like basically exactly what I was going to say is different parts of my career, the different jobs that I've had, my needs and desires have been very different in each scenario. And at first I would be lying out of college if I said that my first instinct or my first priority wasn't salary. I needed to pay my student loans. I needed to pay for the apartment with the roommate and some of those things. So I can super understand where a lot of you are probably coming from, because at that time in my career, that was the most important thing to me. As time has gone on, schedule, flexibility, and career trajectory have become more important to me, and salary much less so. So I think you really need to evaluate where you are in order to make that decision of what's the most important, so you really know what to hone in on and advocate for. I do think that educational advancement opportunities. I don't remember who mentioned it, or like certification programs. That might be a great thing to kind of think about as you can do that while you're in the role, be working on those certifications and add that. Maybe the company can cover the cost of those things. So even though salary might be the most important thing to you, if it is, that's something that maybe you can kind of work into. So.
I agree with all of that. Some of the keys, research, right? We've said over and over again, balance the short term with the long term, right? Know where you want to go. And it doesn't mean you have to, like, if you're going to get a job, right? What is that position bringing you in terms of new skills, new experiences? You don't have to be there for 5-10 years, but have a plan for, what you're doing today should set you up with what you're doing for tomorrow. And then just on the relationship side, especially in sports. Sports is big business, but is a very small industry. Everybody knows everybody. A quick example, random example. I've known Roger virtually for a while now, and I ran into him out of nowhere in LA during, I think, Super Bowl, right? And first time we met in person. Very small, especially around these large scale events. You will see people and meet people, and everybody knows everybody. So from a relationship standpoint, do your research, but be respectful, and because that will come back on you down in your career because of everyone being able to talk and knowing each other. So just some keys from that conversation. All right, I've talked way too long. John, Patrick, questions in the Q&A?
Hey, John, you want to bring someone up?
Yeah, I have a question from Alexander that I'm about to bring up right now. Can an internship be negotiated the same way as a full-time job?
So he's on his mobile, so he can't join us on the stage, but maybe quick hitting, Carissa, how would you answer that?
Yeah, I would say absolutely. I mean, it's still a role that you are reporting to work for. It's like in some ways, a job that has a set end date, and funny story. So the company that I came from before that, or two companies before that was acquired by On Location, I started off as a college intern. And so it came with an end date because I was working semester to semester and whatever the case is, but you're still, in most cases, getting paid. You're still negotiating time. You can negotiate maybe some certifications or whatever the case is in that. So the short answer is yes, I personally would still negotiate because it still needs to fit what you're looking for.
Yeah, man. The best way to get a job is not to have to interview for one or apply for one. And if you get an internship and do a really good job,
you may never leave.
They're going to want to hire you. Yeah, like it's a great way to get your foot in the door. So that's the best kind of job is when you get a job offer without having to apply. Roger, you're going to say something?
Yeah, to that, I negotiated an interview for a position after my internship. So during my internship, I said, hey, listen, this is something that I'm really, really interested in. Can we have some objectives and goals? And if I achieve them, right, like, can we guarantee that I at least get an internship for this opportunity if it's open, right? And that it led to it. And I ended up working for Ohio Athletics, for 2 years after. So, yeah, I think you should.
We had another question from a different Alex. Great question, Alex. This was you hit on a little bit, Carissa. Like within the organization, you have the job. Anyone want to address how you would identify additional career advancement or bring that conversation up to the stage?
I'll jump in on that real quick. I think there's some very key things that you can do, right? And I think Noel hit on some of these, right? Negotiating that check-in time with your manager, right? To make sure you're getting that feedback, whether that's once a week at minimum or every other week, whatever makes sense for you. You want to make sure you've got that FaceTime with a focus on you and your feedback for you and how you need to grow and develop. I think you can also negotiate, right? Talked a little bit about professional development, even outside the organization. So negotiating things to be able to go to conferences or, different things to get development in the industry in addition to the organization. Negotiating, performance review check-ins to make sure that that's locked in, to make sure that at least on an annual basis, you'd be surprised, right? A lot of organizations do performance reviews at least once a year. Some organizations are not as process driven, right? So negotiating in and making sure that you've got a performance review locked in, where it's a time that you can talk about your performance, what you need to do better, and also obviously focused on your development. FaceTime and sort of that executive sponsorship is very important, especially as you move up in your career. So negotiating time with maybe executives in the company, right? And so your manager's manager, or even that that manager's manager's manager, right? The more FaceTime you can get at a higher level will go to your brand within that organization. So there's just a lot of things that you can do creatively to kind of move up and focus on advancement and development.
Yeah, and I'll just add real quick. Simply letting the person who's supervising you know where you want to grow, right? Where's that next level for you? And honestly, even if you're in a certain pathway and you really start liking another pathway, letting them know that, right? I think it's as simple as that sometimes, and that can be done with the check-ins, right? And during those those conversations with your supervisor. So.
Thank you, guys. And then I want to bring Reese up. Reese had his hand raised. There he is. There he is. Reese, do you have a question for the team as we start to wind down?
Yeah. My name is Reese Levin. I'm a senior at Maryland. Thanks so much for doing this. And Q, it was great to see you yesterday with the moderating again. My question is, how do you go about reaching out to people within an organization you just applied for? What questions should you be asking if you applied for a job at an organization you haven't really heard back or something, or you have heard back and you just want to know what the culture is? What kind of questions should you ask when looking for these jobs?
So the kind of the follow-up, how do you follow up on an application? Noel, do you want to give that? I know it's not necessarily in your wheelhouse, but I'm sure you have an opinion. How do you follow up with people when they say they're going to do something and get back to you and they haven't gotten back to you?
That can be tricky, honestly. Like we were saying, is try to get to know, it's a small world everywhere. It's small with music and entertainment. It's small with sports. Try to see, it's always valuable. You touched on the word culture, which is a big buzzword, I think. Can you get some FaceTime? Does your, friend's roommate work there? Friend's roommate knows someone. Can you get some sort of inside scoops? I do get lots of, people that are a few tiers removed asking to apply for internships or asking to get their kids in for internships. And how do I try and facilitate that and be really honest? So I think you can also see, in addition to the interview, is there someone that I can talk to that is within the first 6 months or a year? Do you have opportunities to talk to some of these people that would be my peers? I'm really looking to get to know more about the organization. What's it like to be here day to day? I think that it's an intangible. So getting to talk to someone who's in there every day in the trenches, I think that curiosity, if I don't work in HR, there's a couple others who do, but I think if someone showed a little additional curiosity or opportunity, can I have an informational interview with someone who's in their first year at this position? I think that's an interesting question. And I'm not sure if that can always be accommodated, but it shows that you're really, really looking to get your full scope of what that's going to be like.
Yeah.
It's a really interesting thought. I think that's really smart.
Yeah. And I would just add, don't always if the person that you sent your resume in or talked to initially, don't just stick with them. Right. I think what Noel was saying, find other avenues, find someone who's in that position, find an intern who interned last year. Right. And ask them about their experience and what they thought. Right. I think it's just, being creative. I'll tell you a story because you're at Maryland, Reese, real quick. Man, I worked at Maryland. The reason I saw their old position, I called the GM. I literally picked up, I called his office number and he was in his office and he was like, no one calls my office, so it must be important. And it wasn't. It was me trying to get a job. Right. And I made him talk to me for 45 minutes. Next thing I know, 2 weeks later, I'm moving down to Maryland. Right. So not saying be as bold as me, but I'm saying there's so many different ways. Right. to try to navigate and find the answers you're looking for.
Great question, Reese. I want to get one more question from Amber, and then I want to close us out. Thanks again, Reese, for being here. And Lana's coming too, so we're about to get yelled at. So from Amber, and it's kind of along the lines of a Roger Jones question. Can you be too eager when trying to build connections, relationships within the industry? So kind of along those lines, I guess, real quick round robin. Can you be too eager? Is that a thing? And then maybe what is one tip to not be too eager?
The answer is yes. But here's the thing. Like you have to know who you are, and you have to own your craft, right? Like people know I'm a very, word was aggressive. I'm very assertive. I'm a sales guy, right? Like I'm in this, but I have a way I meet people, and it's go through relationships, right? It's a long game. I'm not in it for intermediate benefit. It's really, I'm trying to build a relationship over here. Q mentioned it. Him and I've known each other for years now, virtually. And we finally, but I haven't reached out to Q like, hey, I need a job, like right here, right? Think about it as a longer relationship, and that will minimize the eagerness.
Carissa, how about you? Want to go next? Then Noel, and we'll finish with Q.
Yeah, I think you have to know your audience, which I know can be a little bit hard because it is like virtual and email, whatever. But I think, I keep saying it, but I think delivery for me is key. So there's a difference between for sure being overly eager or aggressive and being assertive. I don't mind, I enjoy and I don't mind when people are just checking in, want to see how things are going, and like keeping that conversation continuously going. I have had that a lot with people that maybe they weren't the right fit for this, but the conversation continues and then a job pops up and I know exactly who I'm going to put in it. I think delivery and the way that you approach that conversation is key and will differentiate overly eager versus keeping an open line of communication.
Noel?
Yeah, I think like Carissa's saying, tone, which tone can be tricky in emails too. The way that you are thinking, I'm playing this cool and I'm so soft and, have that finesse in my tact, and that could be read very differently. So reread that. I've even had friends reread emails like, if you read this, does that sound okay to you? And you never know how that person, they could be just slammed with emails and going through their day and reading it really quick and sort of misinterpret it or interpret it differently than you intend. So I think really, really think about your word choice, especially if it's written. And frequency of check-in. That is where I start to see the eagerness is, I don't know if this dates me because now I'm married, but like the 3-day rule or the 2-week rule, or like what's appropriate in that, and checking in, showing that you're really interested, and like becoming that can be a little too much or too late. You can lay it on too thick pretty easily. So, and emails are so quick to just fire off. So just really be conscious of that frequency and the tone in which that could be interpreted by the person who's reading your email.
Do you want to close us out?
Yeah, I agree with what everyone said. I think, look, me personally, I can't speak for anyone else. I'm not going to fault anyone for owning their career, right? And whatever you got to do to try to make that happen and get where you want to get. And you're just getting started, right? You'll get that polish as you do this for a long time, like everybody here. You'll start to get a polish about how do you reach out and how do you follow up and what's good, what's not. There's an art and science to it, right? The art piece is really just like you'll start to fall into like just those things that you can't teach. You just kind of understand it as you go forward. But I think a really important thing that Noel said is know when to walk away, and that's about knowing yourself and knowing your vision for yourself. And if an organization or someone's not giving you the attention, you know what? It may not just be for you, right? And I think you've got to be confident enough in yourself to say, okay, maybe that company looks great, right? Maybe that's a great sports team, and I see them on TV or I see this, but you don't know what's happening inside those four walls of that organization. And so if they're not getting back to you, it may just be a blessing in disguise and not a good fit for you.
Amber, great question. Hopefully that was helpful.
Yeah. Thank you, everybody, for your response.
Thank you for coming, Amber. Panel, Amazing job. Let's give yourself a round of applause. You crushed it. I think we clearly helped these young folks secure the bag. I think the one thing I would add to just build on Q's point before we transition is when you guys think about what your expectation is, your performance, we're not comparing you to Roger. Roger's been in his career for 10 years, right? Your comparison is other students your age, your peers. So once again, don't have all this insecurity like I don't have it all figured out. You're competing against other people who don't have it figured out, okay? But you're here today to figure it out, and it takes steps. And to Q's point, you will start to polish, you'll start to refine, you will start to improve, you'll start to get better. So don't feel less.
I'll tell you, Patrick, not to cut you off. You all are a step ahead just by doing these last 2 days. Because I was telling Patrick before we got started, they didn't have stuff like this when I was getting into the industry. And
I was just thinking the same thing.
Really went into it blind and really had to figure it out. Like, you are a step ahead of the next person because they're not here, and you're getting these tools and you're getting these techniques and hearing from all of these people who have amazing experience.
I thought I negotiated well getting $23K from the Cavs. I was like, yeah, let's go.
So have that confidence in yourself to negotiate and secure the bag and ask the right questions and advocate for yourself, because as everyone's mentioned, if you don't do it for yourself, no one will. Awesome. Panelists, thanks again for being here. If you guys have to step off, we totally understand. We're about to switch to the other parts of the program. So thank you again for being here. Noel, it's been great to meet you and work with you on this. And then Carissa, thank you to you and Q for on-location support. Roger, thanks for being my boss as a board member. Appreciate you, buddy.
Thank you, guys.
Thanks, guys. Thanks, audience.
Right. Take care. Have a good weekend.
All right, Lana's here, which means I'm in trouble. So that was awesome. Now we're going to switch to the employer exploration element of the program. So it's 2 different sessions. Visit 1 is from 4 p.m. to 4:30. So we're going to move that back about 5 minutes because we're running a little bit late. So that means you guys will go to one of these tables and sit down. At the visit 2 at 4:30, we'll break and go to different tables. Lana, are you able to speak? Okay. So we're asking for 3 people per table. So if you go to a table and there's more than 3 people, go to a different table, okay? It's going to be a better experience for you guys, a better way for you to learn more about that organization and vice versa, okay? The table breakdown is as outlined here. We'll drop it in the chat. And also, once you're in the main lobby, as we get pulled out of the main stage, you'll be able to see these organizations represented. So go to the table. If there's less than 3 people there, sit down. If there's more than 3 people, go to a different table. Okay? And then we will come back for one final huddle before we get into the speed networking. Here's just a couple conversation points for you guys to consider as well. Okay? We'll come back, huddle up, and do the speed networking. Cool. We will see you guys here in the main lobby. I think Lana might be having Wi-Fi issues. Does it have the entire thing?
No.